Your financial future isn't determined by the economy, not by the government, not by your job, but by three specific mistakes you're making right now. You don't even recognize them because society has convinced you they're normal, even responsible. Pay attention. What I'm about to share will anger you. It will disturb you. It will force you to question everything you've been taught about money, and it might just save you from a lifetime of financial slavery. Do you know that 90% of people are making the exact same wealth-killing mistake on Reveals number 2, and they're proud of it? This isn't theoretical advice from some professor who's never built wealth. These are the exact 3 financial traps I had to identify and eliminate to go from broke to wealthy. These are the precise mindset errors that separate those who accumulate riches from those who remain perpetually struggling, regardless of how much they earn. Today, I'm going to expose the 3 deadly mistakes that keep hardworking, intelligent people trapped in financial mediocrity. I'll reveal why conventional money wisdom is designed to keep you poor, how your well-intentioned financial habits are actually wealth suicide, and the exact shifts that transform your relationship with money forever. First, I'll show you the passive income trap that keeps you chained to trading time for money. Second, I'll expose the toxic financial virtue that 90% of people practice religiously while the wealthy do the exact opposite. And third, I'll reveal the mindset error about risk and security that guarantees poverty in today's economy. What I'm about to share contradicts everything your parents taught you, everything your school reinforced, and everything society celebrates as responsible financial behavior. The comfortable traditional approaches to money aren't just ineffective. They're specifically designed to keep you from achieving true wealth. Every day you continue making these 3 mistakes costs you thousands in lost opportunity. The wealthy have already identified and eliminated these errors. The question is whether you'll continue making them after today's video. The first deadly mistake is believing that income comes from work instead of from assets. This single error guarantees a lifetime of selling your time until you're too old to enjoy wealth. Most people are programmed from childhood with one model of income. Get a job, work hard, earn a salary, save some of it, retire when you're old. This model is a prison designed by the industrial age to create reliable workers, not wealthy individuals. In this model, your income is capped by your time, your energy, and what someone else decides you're worth. No matter how many hours you work or how hard you push, you'll never break free from the fundamental limitation. You're trading your irreplaceable life for money. I made this exact mistake for years. I worked harder, got promotions, increased my salary, and remained completely broke. Why? Because I was focused on increasing my income instead of acquiring assets. I was optimizing my prison cell instead of planning my escape. I was playing the game exactly how society told me to play it, and the game is rigged against players who follow the rules. How many hours do you work each week? What happens to your income if you stop working for 3 months? Who controls your financial fate? Do you or your employer? Are you building a life of freedom or just upgrading the quality of your chains? Stop celebrating higher salaries as financial victories. A bigger paycheck in a broken system isn't success, it's a more comfortable form of slavery. The wealthy understand that true financial freedom only comes when your money works for you, instead of you working for money. Here's what you must do immediately. Shift your focus from earning income to acquiring assets. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket, whether you work or not. Businesses, real estate, investments, intellectual property, digital products. The wealthy spend their energy acquiring and building assets, while the poor and middle class spend their energy trying to earn more income. And here's what the financial elite understand. Every dollar you earn has 2 potential destinies. It can be spent on consumption, or it can be deployed to acquire assets. The poor spend on consumption. The middle class spend on liabilities they mistake for assets, like cars and oversized homes. The wealthy focus obsessively on converting income into assets that generate more income, creating a snowball effect that eventually makes work optional. Now that you understand the first deadly mistake, let's move to the second. The one that 90% of people are not only making, but celebrating as a virtue. The second deadly mistake is believing that saving money creates wealth. It doesn't. In today's economy, saving money is actually losing money. What does society celebrate as responsible financial behavior? Saving, frugality, living below your means, cutting expenses, clipping coupons, hunting for discounts, depositing money safely in a bank account. This is the behavior of people who will work until they die, watching their purchasing power shrink year after year while congratulating themselves on their financial responsibility. But I need to save for the future. Wrong. What you need is to invest for the future. Saving and investing are not the same thing. Saving is putting money in vehicles that guarantee its value will be eaten by inflation. Investing is putting money in vehicles that grow faster than inflation while generating cash flow. Your bank account is not a growth vehicle, it's a value incinerator. Every dollar sitting in a typical savings account is losing 8% of its value annually to inflation while generating virtually zero return. This isn't preservation of wealth, it's the slow bleeding of wealth, so gradual you don't even feel the cut. The wealthy don't focus on saving, they focus on strategic deployment of capital. They understand that cash is a terrible long-term asset. They keep only what they need for emergencies and opportunities, then channel every other dollar into assets that produce returns. Businesses that generate profit, real estate that appreciates and produces income, investments that compound, and ventures that scale without requiring their time. How much money do you have sitting in savings accounts earning less than 1%, while inflation runs at 7%? How many hours do you spend trying to save a few dollars on purchases instead of focusing on building income-producing assets? How much of your financial strategy is defensive rather than offensive, earning and multiplying? Every dollar you save instead of invest is a vote for your continued financial mediocrity. Every moment spent on frugality instead of value creation is time invested in staying poor. The middle class tries to save its way to financial freedom, a mathematical impossibility in an inflationary environment. Here's what you must do instead. Maintain only a minimal emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses maximum. Deploy all other capital into assets that generate cash flow and appreciate. Business ownership, growth-oriented real estate, or strategic investments you understand. Focus your mental energy on increasing income and acquiring assets, not on reducing expenses once your basic needs are covered. Now you understand 2 deadly mistakes: focusing on income instead of assets and saving instead of deploying capital. Let's move to the third and most insidious error. One that's embedded so deeply in your psychology, you may fight to defend it. The third deadly mistake is choosing perceived security over strategic risk, guaranteeing you'll remain trapped in financial mediocrity forever. Imagine 2 paths diverging in a forest. One is well-traveled, clearly marked with signs promising safety but leading to a modest destination. The other is less traveled, with sections that appear uncertain but leads to vast prosperity. Most people choose the first path their entire lives, then wonder why they never reach financial abundance. They've sacrificed opportunity for the illusion of security. Society has programmed you to fear financial risk from childhood. Your parents warned you to get a secure job. Your schools prepared you to be a reliable employee. Your friends validated choices that kept you financially safe but stunted. This programming runs so deep that when faced with opportunities for wealth creation, your immediate reaction is to focus on everything that could go wrong instead of what could go right. I was trapped in this exact mindset. I turned down business opportunities because they weren't guaranteed. I rejected investment possibilities because they weren't certain. I remained in jobs I hated because they were secure. What I didn't understand was that in the modern economy, the apparently safe path is actually the riskiest of all because it puts your fate in someone else's hands and fails to build any real security through asset ownership. What safe choices have you made that kept you financially stagnant? How many opportunities have you rejected because they involved uncertainty? What would your financial situation look like today if you had invested in yourself, in assets, in opportunities with asymmetric upside? The secret wealthy people understand is that risk is not something to be avoided. It's something to be managed, calculated, and leveraged. They don't take blind risks. They take asymmetric risks, situations where the potential upside dramatically outweighs the potential downside. They structure scenarios where they can win big if things go well, but limit their losses if things go poorly. Here's how to transform your relationship with risk. First, recognize that what feels safe is often the riskiest choice long-term. Job security is an illusion in a world of automation and outsourcing. Second, start taking small, calculated risks to build your risk tolerance like a muscle. Third, focus on asymmetric opportunities, those with limited downside but substantial upside potential. Fourth, develop specific knowledge and skills that allow you to evaluate risks better than the average person in at least one area. Stop letting fear, disguised as prudence, make your financial decisions. Start small if necessary. One small investment, one side business, one real estate deal. Learn from those who've succeeded, not from those who've never tried. Calculate potential returns dispassionately. Limit downsides contractually. Hedge when appropriate, but move forward despite uncertainty, because certainty is a luxury that exists only in poverty, never in wealth creation. What happens when you overcome this fear-based approach to money? Everything changes. Opportunities you were blind to suddenly become visible. Decisions that seemed impossible become obvious. Wealth creation accelerates because you're operating on the same principles as the financially elite instead of following the herd to mediocrity. Most importantly, you develop true security, not the illusion of security that comes from a job, but the real security that comes from owning assets, controlling your income streams, and having the confidence to create value in any environment. These three deadly mistakes: focusing on income instead of assets, saving instead of deploying capital, and choosing perceived security over strategic risk, are the invisible prison keeping you financially trapped, regardless of how much you earn. You now understand that true wealth comes from owning assets that generate income without your time, not from selling your life by the hour. You know that saving money in an inflationary environment is actually losing money, while strategic deployment of capital is the only path to abundance. And you recognize that what feels safe is often the riskiest choice of all, while calculated asymmetric risks are the bridge to financial freedom. Some of you are thinking, this advice seems risky compared to what I've always been told. Of course it does. If the conventional wisdom about money worked, most people following it would be wealthy. They're not. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing everyone else is doing while expecting different results. The question isn't whether these principles are valid. Every self-made wealthy person on earth has applied them, while those who ignore them remain stuck regardless of their income level. The question is whether you will continue making these deadly mistakes, or have the courage to adopt a completely different approach to money, one that actually works in the real world, not just in financial fairy tales. While you contemplate whether to change your financial behavior, the wealth gap continues to widen. Those who understand and apply these principles are accumulating assets, deploying capital, and taking calculated risks that compound their wealth exponentially. Those making these three mistakes are falling further behind every single day, regardless of how hard they work. The time for conventional financial thinking is over. Starting today, you will begin focusing on acquiring income-producing assets rather than just increasing your salary. You will deploy capital strategically instead of letting it die slowly in savings accounts. And you will start taking calculated asymmetric risks instead of hiding in the illusion of security. These three shifts alone will put you on a financial trajectory that most people will never experience. Remember, your financial future isn't determined by the economy, the government, or your job. It's determined by whether you continue making these three deadly mistakes or choose a different path starting now. If you're serious about implementing these principles, check out my video on 5 minutes daily to unlock unstoppable discipline, where I break down the exact mental shifts required to execute on what you've learned today. Comment below with which of these three deadly mistakes you've been making and what specific action you're taking to correct it. I want to see who's serious about financial transformation and who's just collecting information. This is about becoming the person who creates wealth by design instead of struggling financially by default. Now go make these changes.